Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I'm sure you've all heard a little bit of something about this in the news recently. The Pew study on prison statistics within this country has just come out recently, and there are a record number of people in the United States in prison. In fact, 1 in 99 of all adults in the United States are behind bars. I'll repeat that because it's a staggering number. It's a fucking crazy number. 1 in 99 adults in this country is behind bars. We truly live in a prison state now. And I needn't remind you, or perhaps I should remind you, that the vast majority of prisons in this country are run by private corporations, not by the state or federal government. And these private corporations would not be in the business of running departments of corrections or prisons if they did not make money doing it. So don't kid yourself, the prison industry is all about making a buck. So there is an incentive to keep it big and keep it going. Approximately 1 in 5 of all of the people in prison are there for drug offenses. 1 in 5 for drug offenses. I'll break down the statistics a little bit more for you so you can get a clear idea of where we come from. At the end of 2007, there were 1,596,127 people behind bars at the state and federal level, and in the beginning of 2008, there were a total of 2.3 million people behind bars, which included local jails. That made the United States number 1. Woohoo! Number 1 USA. Number 1 for people in prison. Who was number 2? China. And number 3, a distant number 3, Russia. A further breaking down of the statistics reveal that white men 18 and older, 1 in 106 are in prison. All men 18 and older, 1 in 54 behind bars. Hispanic men 18 and older, 1 in 36 behind bars. Black men 18 and older, 1 in 15 behind bars. Black men 20 to 34, 1 in 9 behind bars. The average state expenditure for corrections is 6.8% of their budget. That's an average for all states. 6.8% of their budget is for corrections. Countrywide, for every dollar that is spent by a state on higher education, on average, 60 cents is spent on corrections. We've truly arrived at the prison state, not only with the stormtrooper police doing as they please. You can see my other YouTube video and many other YouTube videos on the overbearing nature of the police these days, but also in the number of people who are behind bars in this country. It's not a statistic we should be very proud of at all. To come in ahead of China, one of the worst human rights violators in the world, makes me question what the United States stands for. And I brought up the fact that 1 in 5 of the people who are in prison, approximately, are there for drug offenses. And this is a good reason why a failed drug war should be ended. We spent countless hundreds of billions of dollars on fighting a war on drugs that has gotten us nowhere, except filled our prisons with non-violent offenders, most of which either make, use, or consume drugs of some kind. The pharmaceutical industry in this country makes drugs, manufactures drugs, distributes drugs, and gives drugs to people who routinely die from them. I say routinely only in comparison to the number of people who die by the use of illegal drugs. A vastly greater number of people each year in this country die from the use of prescription drugs than do die from illegal drug use. A vastly greater number. So I say it's time for the failed war on drugs to end, and for the United States to start using the incredible amounts of money that we have plunged into this totally failed affair, and use that money for social programs that will help people with real everyday problems. The libertarian approach is that whatever anybody does to themselves should be nobody else's business. Of course, there are people in prison who deserve to be there, murderers, rapists, etc., burglars, what have you. But nonviolent drug offenders, certainly making up 1 in 5 of the prison population, that could certainly, if that was removed from the statistics, remove us from the #1 spot in people imprisoned in this country. So, I say it's high time we end the war on drugs. It's not something that can be done overnight, but one thing that certainly can be done in the short term, which will probably help in the long term, is a concerted effort to move towards the decriminalization of marijuana on a state-by-state and federal level. And certainly that will open the door to a more liberal policy when it comes to drug laws countrywide. I think that's a very small step, certainly, and it's not in the end where we need to be, but I think it's certainly something that can and should be done at this point. So maybe it's time to start lobbying your congressmen and senators for the decriminalization of marijuana in order to effect some change down the road and hopefully get to the point where the drug war is no longer being waged and all of the vast sums of money that the United States government is wasting on this can be used for better purpose to help people in this country with real everyday problems that they face every day, like loss of jobs, like outsourcing, like staying warm in the winter, and like helping families. I think it's time for that. Thank you.